Mary had a little lamb.
From the classiest radio station on the air, this is...
Welcome to The Black Rabbit's Curse, where every shadow hides a sinister verse. Hear the airs that can tales of terror twist in your head into the dark unknown, where fear takes root and chills the bone. Beware, dear traveler, for once you're here, the curse may linger year after year. The ones who walk back across the water. The night the water began to whisper. When Asha moved to St. Thomas Island for her graduate research, she thought the ocean would calm her. But on her second night, the waves began whispering her name. It just started after 2:13 a.m. Asha, come see. At first, she thought it was wind pushing through the moss trees, but the whisper had shape and rhythm and breath. Her aunt from Savannah had warned her before she left. Don't go near Dunbar Creek after midnight. The waters remember who walked into it and who needs to walk back out. Asha laughed it off until she didn't. The following night, she walked to the creek with her recorder, hoping to collect natural audio. The moon was low, thin, red, almost bleeding. When she reached the pier, she saw ripples moving against the wind, as if something underwater was pacing beneath the surface. A soft chant drifted across the water. Not English, not Gullah, but older, rhythmic, heavy, carrying centuries. Her recorder glitched. Static, then a voice deep, layered, dozens speaking at once. We did not drown. We walked home. And now we walk back. Her breath froze. The water rose in a long swell, forming a shape of a spine, then shoulders, then arms. Water turned to flesh. Flesh turned to dripping silhouettes. A line of human shapes emerged from the creek. Their eyes glow like wet coals. They were walking straight towards shore. A freshman named Carter was the first to vanish. Asha heard his screams echo across the marsh. By the time she reached him, the water was bubbling around his ankles, pulling him down like fingers. He clawed at the mud, screaming that something was holding him by the legs. Asha, help me! Something's... His voice cut off. He was yanked under so hard that his hat flew into the air. The water went still, too still. Then, a pair of dark, ancient hands rose from the creek and placed his hat neatly on the shore. Asha ran. Shaking, she went back to her rented cottage and dug through the archive. She collected old diaries, plantation logs, Gullah legends. Every source said the same shocking thing. The Igbo who walked into the water in 1803 did not die. Not all of them. Some crossed backwards into a spiritual realm connected to the marsh, and a realm between life and death, a realm powered by righteous rage. And they made a vow: we shall rise when our land still bleeds. Asha stared at the final line of the crumbling journal entry. If ever stolen blood is spilled here again, the marching ones will return. That day, a developer had broken ground on the land, planning luxury condos over Igbo Landing. They had dug where the bodies had sunk. They had disturbed scarce ground. The next night, screams echoed across town. Workers who had broken the earth were found. Bodies twisted like they had been dragged underwater. Faces frozen in terror. Mud packed between their teeth. Bare footprints in wet sand, leading away from everybody. But the footprints didn't go to the water. They led into town, right to Aisha's cottage door. She woke to the sound of wet feet pacing across her porch. Slow, deliberate, one after another. Then the chanting began again. Soft, calm, close. We walk for those who cannot. We rise for those who fell. By sunrise, the town was in chaos. People claimed to see silhouettes standing in fields, marshes, even roads. Men and women with ropes still around their wrists, dripping creek water. Faces shadowed except glowing eyes. A little girl ran screaming from the schoolyard saying, "A lady maid of water asked me, where are the ones who hurt you?" The local sheriff tried to make an arrest in the marsh. His patrol car was found hours later. Doors open, seatbelt cut clean through, like with a blade of water. And the sheriff, floating face down in the creek, his hat, like Carter's, neatly placed on the shore. Aisha returned to appear at dusk, terrified but drawn by something deeper. The water parted as she approached. 10 figures stepped forward. Their skin shimmered between flesh and water. Their feet hovered an inch above the ground, as if still walking on the creek's surface. One step closer, a tall man with a heavy presence of a warrior, robes dangling from his wrist. He bowed slightly, then spoke deep, reverent. "You called us," Aisha choked. I didn't. He pointed to her notebook, to her voice recorder, to the ancestral beads her aunt had placed in her suitcase. He remembered us, and remembering is calling. He lifted his head. Behind him, dozens more rose from the water. Men, women, children, marching, still marching, always marching. The spirits turned towards the construction site, the stolen land. They walked, leaving trails of water behind them that hissed like steam. When they reached the site, the earth trembled. The machines rusted into dust. The ground cracked open. A wind like 1,000 breaths exhaled at once. And from the soil, bones began to rise. But they didn't stay bones. They filled with water first, then with flesh, then with breath. Aisha watched as an entire army of the wronged, dead Igbo warriors drowned in 1803, and ancestors burned long after stood assembled in front of her. The leader raised his arm. No more stolen land, he thundered. No more stolen breath. They marched through the town. Every person whose family had profited from the lands, Beth felt their lungs fill with water, as if invisible hands were pushing them down. One by one, they vanished, dragged back to the creek, never resurfacing. Weeks later, the town was abandoned. Every house empty, every window open, every road covered in wet footprints. Aisha, shaken but alive, returned to her aunt in Savannah. She tried to sleep, but the whispers followed her. Aisha, Aisha. One night, she checked her phone. A new photo was in her camera roll. She hadn't taken it. It showed her standing on the pier at Dunbar Creek, but behind her, an entire army of water-formed Igbo spirits stood silently, and she was standing among them as if she belonged. Then the screen glitched, and a voice whispered from the speakers. The water remembers you now, and when we rise again, you rise with us. The photo updated automatically. Now Aisha's eyes were glowing too, like she was no longer living on land, like she was one of them.
Sit here, heart still racing,
The ones
eyes
who
wide
walk
open.
back.
Remember, the terror doesn't end when the video does. You may try to forget, but the shadows have a way of following. The whispers grow louder each night, don't they? So go ahead, close your eyes, if you dare. But know this, you're not alone. Not anymore. But the Black Rabbit's curse has seen you, and it's waiting. So what happens when the lights go out? If you want to find out, make sure you come back. But next time, will you be ready? Sleep well. Or don't. See?